Oops. And we're live. You've got Mel with Rajani,
Yes,
Rajani LaRocca.
yes.
It's great to see
I,
you. And you have a middle name that is impossible to pronounce.
well, I have two middle names, Chakravarti Narasimhan.
Okay, so Narasimhan sounds Yiddish. You know, I have this theory that the Jews are actually Indians and Indians are Jews.
Why not?
Yeah, and there's an expression called Norev Simcha, which
Oh
is
my goodness.
we should only know from happy occasions.
Wow. Well, in Sanskrit, Narasimha is an incarnation of Vishnu, and Nara means man and Simha means lion. So it's literally half man, half lion.
Well, there you go. And I'm wearing my lion camouflage shirt for you. But I mean, you know, Rajani, that we have to start with the jingle.
Okay.
You didn't know
I
that.
no, I didn't know that.
Okay, so we start with the jingle. So here we go. Jingle away. Welcome to You've Got Mel.
Okay. Am I supposed to sing a commercial jingle right now?
No, no, this is my jingle, like to get the show going, you know?
Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I just have to find now.
Get a chair, grab a seat, or we'll sweep you off your feet. We move, we groove, you got Mel. Ease your legs, rest a while, all you gotta do is smile. We're swell, can't you tell you got Mel? When the show begins, you better hold on real tight, or before you know it, you'll be high as a kite. Take a break, settle down, we're the only show in town. SRO, don't you know you got Mel? Give it up, don't think twice, we're a hurricane on ice. What the hell, give a yell, ring your bell, show and tell. Mademoiselle, give a smell, you got Mel.
You've got Mel. Oh no!
Get a
Once
chair,
is
grab
more
a
than
seat,
enough.
or
Okay, let's get rid of this. And here you are.
Woohoo! It's impressive the number of things rhyme with Mel.
Yes, my name was Bartholomew, and I changed it. No, I'm joking. So, but isn't that great? I mean, my parents actually named me Melvin.
It's
Uh,
I
but
mean,
but when I realized how many things you can rhyme with Mel,
it's
why?
fantastic.
Yeah, why have two syllables when you can have only one?
That's right. And
What
such
what
an
what rhymes with Rajani?
nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I tell people when they're confused about how to pronounce my name, imagine the first part rhymes with fudge. So Rajni, fudgeny. So
Uh,
fudge. How's that?
so Rajani is your name,
Yes.
not Rajani as Americans might say.
No.
Rajani.
Rajni. Yeah.
Okay, but
It's
I
almost
don't.
like a U.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you are a prolific and award-winning children's book author.
Yes, I love writing children's books.
So which books have just come out, which are about to come out? If you have any around, just show them so everybody can see them. I,
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, so I will show you the
and they are
ones that are
so
out.
colorful and beautiful.
Yes. Okay. This was my first book, Midsummer's Mayhem. It's a middle grade novel. It came out in 2019. It's basically a Midsummer Night's Dream meets Cupcake Wars. There you go. And then my second book and my first picture book is right here. Seven Golden Rings, A Tale of Music and Math. And this just won the Mathical Award for grades 3 to 5. And it's set in ancient India and it involves a math puzzle and an introduction to binary numbers. So that's really fun.
It's gorgeous.
Um,
1 second, Rajani.
yes, yes,
Can,
yes. I'll keep holding
can
it.
you no open a double spread so people can see how beautiful the illustrations are.
It's just so beautiful.
Right, and it has a lovely story.
Yes.
And while the child is reading it, he learns binary mathematics.
Yes. And at the very end, there is an author's note that explains all about binary.
I read it all.
Yeah, it was fun to write. It really was.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And while you're not busy being a children's author, one second, you have another book coming out.
Oh yes, well I had one that published just a couple of weeks ago.
I have to remind you. What about Bina and her
No.
brothers?
So this is Red, White, and Whole. It is a middle grade novel in verse, so it's written in poetry, and it just came out on February 2nd. And it is set in 1983, and it is about a 13-year-old girl who feels torn between the worlds of her Indian immigrant parents and her school friends and 80s pop culture. So it has a lot of 80s songs in it. A lot of the song titles are actually 80s song titles. A lot of the poem titles are 80s song titles. But then her mom gets really sick with leukemia, and she feels like her whole world is turned upside down. And yeah, so this book is really super close to my heart, and I'm really excited that it's in the world.
That's wonderful. Can you just open it anywhere and read a few
Yeah,
lines to us?
yes. Okay, I'll read the first poem. 2. I have 2 lives, one that is Indian, one that is not. I have 2 best friends, one who is Indian, one who is not. At school, I swim in a river of white skin and blonde hair and brown hair and blue eyes and green eyes and hazel. School subjects and giggles about boys, salad and sandwiches. And on weekends, I float in a sea of brown skin and black hair and dark eyes, MTV music videos and giggles about boys, samosas and subjis. In both places, I have gossip and laughter, music and silence, friendship. But only in one place do I have my parents.
Wow, it is so lyrical.
Thank
Wow,
you.
that's wonderful.
Thank
Um,
you.
and what about the Bina and her brothers?
Bina, okay, so back there on my
I have to
shelf.
remind you what books you've written.
I
What's
know.
going on? Oh yeah, I wrote that one. Yeah,
Bracelets for Bina's brother. Should I bring
yeah.
it closer? It's all the way over there. Hold
Of
on.
course you should.
All right. Bracelets for Bina's brothers. This is coming out in April, and it is part of Charles Bridges' storytelling math series. And it is about a little girl named Bina who wants to make her 3 older brothers bracelets for the Indian holiday Raksha Bandhan, where sisters give brothers bracelets that are supposed to protect them, and brothers are supposed to give sisters a little present in exchange. And it's about the bond between sisters and brothers. And so she wants to make them herself using patterns. And so she finds out all of her brother's favorite colors and kind of knows what they like to do, like reading or music or basketball, and wants to make them herself without her mom's help. But she finds out that it's a little harder than she thought. So she has to figure out how to do it. It's really sweet. And Chaya Prabhat is the illustrator. I just got to show you. Look at this art. I mean, just unbelievable. And look at that gigantic dog whom I love.
And the book is all it's all about colors. It's all about choosing color patterns.
Exactly. It's so sweet, and I just absolutely love. Look at how she's thinking with the dog. The dog helps a lot.
That's what dogs are for.
That's right. That's right.
So Rajani, I'm you're about the 20th traditionally published children's book author that I'm interviewing, and what I want the audience to understand is that you are one in many thousands of writers who aspire to be where you are. So people should realize that I'm talking to royalty here.
Oh.
So your highness, how did this happen?
So, I always loved books. Always, always. When I was a kid, I read kind of everything I could get my hands on, including, novels and nonfiction and comic books and comic strips and whatever I could read. And I did do creative writing when I was a kid and even through high school. But my first love was medicine. And so I knew I wanted to be a doctor. And I specifically remember in high school, I was taking a creative writing class, and I told my teacher, I said, I love doing this, but I know this is not going to be my career because I know that I'm going to go to medical school. And he said to me, who says you have to choose? And he brought in all these books by doctors who were also authors. And I have to tell you, it planted a seed in my head that I was
Who
like,
is
okay.
this? Who is this guy?
Mr. Hertzfeld, my creative writing teacher in high school.
So, Mr. Hertzfeld, if you are listening, you deserve a huge award.
He does. I went back for my high school reunion, not like just before my first book was published. And there's actually a quote from him in that book. And I said, I showed up at the high school, and the first person I saw was him. He's retired. But I told him, I said, Mr. Hertzfeld, you're in my book. You're like quoted in my book. And he was like, I hope it's something good. And it was, of course. He said in our class, in that creative writing class, he said to us, poets need time to stare out of windows.
Wow.
And I was, isn't that just a fantastic thing to say? So he basically was giving us permission to daydream and look out the window and not worry about being busy, just to let our minds think about stuff that we wanted to write about. He's so wonderful. And it made it into the book. It made it into Midsummer's Mayhem. And so I can't thank him enough. So after high
One
school,
second, you're not going to tell our audience that you're actually a medical doctor too.
I am. I am.
That's unbelievable. I knew it, but I'm still in awe. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. You didn't talk about your family. You were born in America. Your Indian roots. Talk to me.
Okay, I'll talk to you.
We have lots of time.
Sure. I was born in India, and I came to the US as a baby. And we came to New York like many people do. So we lived in New York for a while, then we moved to Florida for a while, then that ended up growing up for the most part in Louisville, Kentucky, which is a lovely city. Yes.
I've been there.
It's a wonderful place.
It is.
Yes, it's a really nice place to grow up. And there was a relatively sizable Indian community for that size city, but it wasn't so huge that so in other cities where there were a lot more Indians, even at that time in the 70s and the 80s, people really kind of split up and only socialized with people who spoke their own language or were from their specific part of India. But our community was small enough that we kind of knew everybody. We just kind of hung out with everyone. So it was great. And then I would spend every few years, we would go and spend the whole summer back in India with my relatives. And
India's a big place, Rajani.
Yes.
What
we
part
are
of
from
India?
Bangalore, India, which is a big city right in the south of India. And it's a wonderful place. Like, I mean, talk about like amazing food and like gardens and, arts and culture. Like it's a beautiful place.
And it's a high tech
It is a high-tech center. And yes. And it's always been very cosmopolitan. So there have always been lots of people from all over the place there, which was really cool. And I was really lucky in that I have a bunch of cousins who are all right around my age. So we used to have a great time. But the only problem is that their school year is different. So in the summer, when I was on vacation, they would actually have classes. So I would have all day without them around. So while I was waiting for them to come back from school, I would go to the local lending library and read more books. And among the books that I read were these Indian comics called Amar Chitrakathas, which are just fantastic. So each one is illustrated by a different person, and they all tell stories from Indian history, mythology, and literature. So I learned so much about my own culture from these comic books, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful. So a lot of those stories have always been percolating in my head, and there are things that that make their way into my writing. In Red, White, and Whole specifically, there is a story from Hindu mythology that the girl in the story really thinks about a lot, and so it is told in the book itself. So I had, I don't know if anybody thinks about this or has talked to you about this, when you go to a country where the accent is different and you go for like 8 weeks, you pick up their accent, especially as a child. So I would come back from India and I would have this slight Indian accent, and all my friends here would be like, what is going on with you? You're sounding weird. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to like
Weird.
I need to remember how to say things like this again. It was just really, really funny. Yeah, but those were wonderful times. I have a really wonderful extended family, and we get to spend a lot of time together. Yeah, so that was me. I was between Louisville and Bangalore basically all my life, and we traveled a lot as a family too. Like we took road trips across the US, which was really fun. We would just be with another family or two and take a big van, and we drove once from Kentucky all the way to California and back, and like stopped in various places like one night in each place, and then like saw everything. It was beautiful.
Rajani, why did your folks leave India?
So that's interesting. I mean, I would say that my dad is an engineer. He was looking for opportunity. He wanted to go to a place where he could do well by his family. And so the other kind of legendary thing about this whole situation was that you have to apply for a visa, right? A work visa. And my dad's work visa came through a month before I was born. And he had to go. He had to go because he was going to lose his chance. So he left India, and my mom was with her parents, and everyone else was around her. So I was born, and then he didn't want us to come until he had a job and like a place to live. So I was like a year old before I saw my dad.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. But
And what about brothers and sisters?
I have none. That's it.
Okay, that's fine. And your
Yeah.
mom?
My mom was had just finished college when she got married, and she worked at a bank when I was a kid. Yeah, it was fun. She didn't work for a while when I was really little, but then worked at a bank when I got older. And it
So
was
so
fun.
so while you were growing up and becoming an American,
Hmm.
you also had these Indian values and cultures at home,
Yeah.
and for the most part, that's edifying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Listen, I will tell you that as a teenager, it wasn't always easy. And that's a lot of a lot of the emotions that are in Red, White, and Whole come directly from my own experience. I mean, I did to a certain extent feel like I was living in two different worlds. That all week long I was at school with all my American friends, and on the weekends we were spending time almost exclusively with our Indian friends and our community. So it was just kind of like, well, which one is the real me? And at times that could be challenging, but for the most part it was just wonderful.
So I have a theory that people who write for children are themselves stuck in some era. Usually picture book writers are like stuck at the age of 5, as I am. Are you stuck at a certain age?
Oh, I think I'm probably stuck around 12. I think middle grade is my sweet spot, although I love picture books, and I would argue that picture books are not just for little kids. They are really for everybody.
Well, yeah, and I would agree, but your picture books are like, yeah, they're a little more intellectual than the run of the mill.
I find that the grandparents in my family, so my in-laws and my parents, they love the picture books.
Ah,
They're so happy with the pic. They're just like, we love it, and because the pictures tell half the story, and they're so delightful.
okay, I think that the pictures tell 70% of the story, and that's something that we writers have to live with.
Yes, I'll accept that. That's fine.
Um, and your stories, no matter how wonderful they are, the illustrations are like. So, and of course, I'm going to agree with you because 5-year-olds do not go out and buy their own picture books.
That's true.
So it has to the parents and the grandparents and librarians, among other people, have to love the stories. And
Absolutely.
whenever I think of Madeline, I get teary-eyed, which was my go-to book when I was 4 or 5 years old. Did you
Mm.
have a children's book that was your go-to book when you were 5?
When I was 5, The Pokey Little Puppy.
I'll
I
check it
love
out.
it's a little golden book. It is so lovely. Yeah, that might have been when I was, I mean, I think I started loving that book when I was even younger. Um, it's so funny because then I really remember the books that I read as a middle grade reader. Like I really remember loving The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. And I loved all of Madeleine L'Engle's books, like just absolutely adored them, like read them over and over. And and then at least in my era, I feel like you got past middle grade and then they were just like, well, you're an adult now. So like you're just gonna read adult books. So I was like, all right, fine, I guess I'll just read adult books. When I was in India in that lending library, they had an interesting collection of stuff. So like I read so much Agatha Christie as like a 10-year-old, and I had no idea what was going on for some of the story, but then I figured it out at the end. And my favorite was when Hercule Poirot would like speak in French. He would have these French phrases, and I was like, I don't like, what is he saying? I thought he kept saying Viola instead of voila. And so I was like, what is Viola? I didn't get it. And then later on, a couple of years later, I started taking French and I was like, aha, now I understand what he was talking about.
Voilà.
Exactly.
C'est ça. Maintenant, je comprends.
Exactly.
And why do you feel like you're stuck as a 12-year-old?
I feel like so I feel like that's where my natural writing voice lies. I love middle grade literature because I think that you can tackle profound issues, sometimes really difficult issues, in a way that is very accessible to everybody, but including children. I also think that's the time in your life when you were determining so much of who you're going to become. I really think that the stuff that I loved when I was when I was 12 and 13 are the things that I still love now. So I absolutely adore that time period, and I love writing for that time period. And I think that that's where I like to write. That's kind of the area where I like to write. That's not to say that I don't like writing picture books. And I have like some YA ideas. So who knows? Maybe I will write for other people too. But I think that's my first.
Okay, and so while you were becoming one out of tens of thousands of successful children's authors, in your spare time you became a physician.
Yeah, I became a physician first, and then it wasn't until like 10 years ago or so that I decided to go back
we're
to
telling
writing.
a story here. You don't have to tell the truth.
I went back to writing as something that I wanted to do for me.
So
I wanted to be
one
creative.
second. Rajani, back to
Yes.
high school, Mr. Hertzfeld,
Yes.
and you finished high school, and then you say, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, so I went to college and I was a government major, but I was also pre-med. So I always have loved all the things. That's the thing. I loved to study everything. So I figured if I'm going to medical school, I might as well study government now, because when else am I going to get a chance to do that? So I did that. And then I went to medical school. And once I went to medical school, I literally had no room in my brain for anything else. I was like, I cannot write. Maybe I would have, like, maybe I read stuff that wasn't medical related, but it was challenging. It was like learning 3 languages at once. It was challenging.
Where did you go to medical school?
I went to Harvard Medical School.
That's not even in your bio. Oh, and while I was busy doing other things and studying government, I had a little bit of free time, so I enrolled in Harvard Medical School.
It was a good place. It was a good place.
You are some kind of overachiever, aren't you?
I don't know. I feel very fortunate, and I'm like super. I tried and I succeeded, but that doesn't.
I'm even more fortunate because I just get to interview you. You did all the hard work, and I'm just getting the nachas, the parental pleasure.
Let me tell you, when I was in medical school was when I started baking. My roommate in medical school, like my best friend in medical school, she was a really good, like she liked to bake, like at home. And yeah. I told her, I said, I've always wanted to bake. I'm not, like, I'm just intimidated and I'm a little scared. And she said to me, oh my goodness, what are you scared about? You just need a recipe and you need to have the stuff around. That's it. And so we started baking stuff together. We cooked and baked so much. And that influenced this book, right? This girl loves to bake. And like this girl is 11 and she bakes way better than I did when I was 11. But like little things from your life that you love end up being in your stories.
Of course. But what do medical students bake? A kidney pie?
No, nothing anatomical.
Oh, I'm happy.
No, it was like cakes.
Brain stew. Here, have some brain stew.
There's no eyeballs, no nothing.
A
none
little
of that stuff.
little formaldehyde, but you'll enjoy it.
None of that stuff. No.
Okay, good.
No,
I'm
thank
happy.
goodness. It was just cookies and cakes. It was really good. And bread. We made some bread sometimes too. That was really fun. Yeah. Yeah. So then I went to residency, which was also like a time in my life where I had no space in my brain or energy in my body to do anything else. And then at the end of residency, I had my first child. And then, and then 3 years later, I had another kid, and I was like, and I was working, and I was like, well, there are people who have little children who write books, and I don't know how they do it. Because for me, I was like, I'm just glad that I took a shower today. Like that was, I took a shower and I got to work. Like that's all. Like I was like, thank goodness. So it took a while. And the most creative part of me, I poured into planning birthday parties for the kids.
How
And
old are the little kids now?
Oh, my little kids are huge now. They're both in college. So my son is a third-year student at Williams College, and my daughter is a first-year student at Vanderbilt.
That's really
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, what, you got married when you were 16 or something?
No.
They
Well,
do that in India, you know.
yeah, no. I met my husband when we were 18. I met him first year of college. But we didn't get married until we were 25 or so. So yeah.
And
Yeah.
what's his background?
He is he's a computer scientist. He runs a software company.
Another
He helped with
easygoing
that.
fellow.
He helped with that author's note a lot. I was like, binary numbers.
It shows. It shows. I say, okay, I finally understand. No, I'm joking because I have another story, but this show is about you. So someday offline, I'll tell you. No, but I mean, I'm sure he's a wonderful, lovely guy. But where are his parents from? LaRocca isn't an Indian name.
Italian American. Italian American. Yes.
Italiano.
His great grandparents came from Italy. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
we have very good food in our house.
Where do you live? I'm coming.
We're in Massachusetts. We got a lot of snow, but come on over.
By the way, I'm vaccinated. You know, Israel, I'm double vaccinated. I can, and as soon as they open the skies, I'm coming for dinner.
Please do. Seriously. I'm also double vaccinated.
I have to meet you to see if you are as incredible as you seem.
Oh my goodness.
So let's now spend a few minutes talking about your craft.
Yes.
Why do you write mathematical books for young children? Is there a reason for this?
I love math. I mean, honestly, it's as simple as that. I love math. I've always loved math. I mean, I'm not one of those math geniuses like my son and my husband are. Oh my God. Okay, I will tell you a story. My son, so before he could speak words, he knew all the numbers and he knew all the letters. Like he couldn't necessarily say them yet. He was like 1. But if you said, where's the R, he would point to the R. Like he knew them. And by the time he was 2, he began to understand about multiples. So he was like, okay, mommy, let's count by 2s. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm pushing the stroller. Eventually we get to, okay, mommy, let's count by 26s. And I was like, 26? 52. And then I'd be like, let's go to the park, because he was just not stopping. So when he was very young, probably 3 or 4, we read a book called One Grain of Rice by Demi, an author illustrator, and it's set in ancient India, and it involves a clever girl who basically tricks kind of the king who is not sharing his rice with everybody in the kingdom. She tricks him because she does something for him, and he's like, "What's your reward?" And she says, "Oh, just give me 1 grain of rice and just double it every day for 30 days." And he's like, "That's not enough." And she's like, "No, that's fine." And of course, it ends up being all the rice in the kingdom, right? So Powers of Two were in that book. My child was 3 or 4 years old. In the back of the book is a list of all the powers of 2 to 2 to the 30th. He drank it up. He soaked it up, and he memorized them all. He was just like, okay, this is part of how I think of the world now. And he made me realize that even very young children can be exposed to sophisticated mathematical concepts and enjoy it. Now, not everyone needs to memorize the powers of 2 as a 3-year-old, but just seeing how quickly those numbers grow is something that expands your mind and is enjoyable and really wonderful. So I feel like math is full of wonder. I also feel that science is full of wonder, and I've got some scientific type of books coming out too. So yeah, that's why I write about them, because I think it's really cool. And my next middle grade novel, which is coming out in June, Much Ado About Baseball. So it's a companion novel to Midsummer's Mayhem. It involves math puzzles, like serious math puzzles. These are middle grade kids, 12-year-old kids who are on a math puzzle team. And so they like this stuff, and they have to solve these math puzzles. They may or may not be magical, and strange things happen when they do. So yeah, I love this stuff.
Amazing. So how did you break in? How did you find an agent? What was your first story? Give us some of that background.
Yeah, so Midsummer's Mayhem was the first novel I ever wrote. I didn't know how to write a novel, and so I just kind of like kept writing stuff. When I first started writing, I took classes online and then in person, and then I met fellow writers, which honestly is the gateway to writing more. Because when you have critique partners who are like, well, you kind of have to write the next chapter because I want to know what happens, then you're like, okay, I guess I should write the next chapter. These writing friends, I'm going to sound really corny, but this is the truth. I never thought I would meet people that I connected with and felt like they were my people as much as I did people in medicine. Like when you are in the medical world and you realize you're all working towards a common goal of helping people. And of course, there's a whole intellectual side to it, and like a smartness side of it that is fun. But like ultimately, you're just all on the same team helping people. That is such a wonderful feeling of belonging. Like these people are my people. I never thought I would find that again. And then I met writers, and I found it again, like, later in my life, which was shocking. So I have to say that my critique partners and other writers that I have met, they're such creative, generous people, and they kept me writing. So there's a lot of disappointment and there's a lot of fear when you first start out writing, that when you put it, when you send it out to people, when you put it in front of somebody else, that they're just going to say no. And the truth is, yeah, a lot of people are going to say no. Like that's okay. But when you have friends who support you and believe in what you're doing, it really helps you keep going. So I was writing this novel. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I was writing a bunch of picture books. Seven Golden Rings was actually one of the first picture books I ever wrote. It took me forever. I think I first drafted it in 2013. I think I wrote almost 70 drafts before it finally got to the version that we sold, right?
But that's par for the course.
Exactly. So I was writing and writing and writing. In around 2015, 2016, I started sending things to agents saying, hey, aren't I cool? And most of the time I just got a whole lot of no. I mean, people asked for the manuscript, that kind of thing. I got nibbles here and there, but I got a lot of rejection. And let me tell you, I've never been rejected that much in my entire life. Like I'm a relatively successful person. I was like, okay, I don't know, I do things. I like got into school, I got my job, but I just kept hearing no. But the thing is that I just told myself, and I think this part of this comes from just being older and just being like, whatever, I'm gonna try this, and what does it matter? I just told myself, if I don't put myself out there, I'll never succeed. So I might as well put myself out there and risk rejection. That's all you can do, right? So I kept going. I kept trying to make my work better. And then in 2017, I had like 10 agents with the full manuscript of Midsummer's Mayhem. Like I thought it was good. It was really good. And then, as often happens with agents, it was like 4 months went by, 5 months went by, nothing. And I was like, this is crazy. And you feel like you're in this weird situation where you don't want to ask them, like, have you read it? Because then they might just say, well, no, I don't. Oh, yeah, I read it and I don't like it. Go away. So there was this contest called Pitch Wars, which is a contest where more experienced writers mentor writers who don't have agents yet. And you enter, there were like, whatever, 3,000 entries and 180 people selected. So I was not sure whether I wanted to enter. And then my friend said, what have you got to lose? Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, even if you don't get in, like, you're no worse off than you were before. And I was like, okay, fine. I entered, I somehow got chosen. My mentor was wonderful. Joy McCullough, who's just such an accomplished, amazing author. She loved the book, and she had a big suggestion, which was to eliminate a main character. And I was like, wait, what? And so I was like so scared. And then I just kind of like sat with that advice, and I was like, and I was like, okay, I think you're right. But I was so scared. So we had like, I think 2 months to revise our novel. So I said, okay, I was so scared that I'm going to try 2 different revisions. And I started going in opposite directions, one with the character gone and one with him there. And within 3 chapters, I was like, he's got to go. So I like rewrote my entire book in like 5 weeks. It was crazy. And I was sitting there going, I'm nuts, because it took me years to write this book. How am I going to rewrite this in like a few weeks and have it be as good? And you know what? It was better. It was better. But the thing that drove me, I will be honest, was fear. I was like, this is my chance. If I mess this up, then like, what is the point of any of this? So I rewrote it. There was an agent showcase at the end of it. And the person who ended up being my agent read my novel as soon as I sent it and emailed me that night and was like, we should talk.
Incredible. And who is your agent?
Brent Taylor of Triada US. He's amazing. So I ended up getting some more offers, but he was clearly the one that was the right one. And then we ended up selling this book and 4 more picture books, I think, that year. So it was bananas. It's been bananas. And then, and so I think that for people out there who are querying still, who want to be published, I mean, the answer is just keep improving what you do and keep trying, because honestly, I know that everybody says this, but it is the truth. The biggest difference between people who are published and people who are not are the ones that the ones who are published just kept going, kept trying. That's all you can do.
Well, I will tell that to myself the next time I get a query rejection. But no, but I mean, it's we could discuss this at length, but you have to have a really good manuscript.
You do.
And it's very hard to know sometimes whether your manuscript is really good, because sometimes your query partner will be, your critique partner, excuse me, will be too kind. I'm looking for critique partners who are mean. And the terrible thing is that most children's book writers are really nice people. I'm looking for the mean one.
Well, I mean, this is also where if you go to conferences or virtual conferences and you get critique opportunities with industry professionals like editors or agents, they can also give you different insight, because they don't know you. They don't have to be nice to you. It's not about being nice. It's about being useful. They can tell you hard truths that maybe your friends won't tell you. But also, I would say that critique partners are wonderful, but oftentimes, if you've been with them for years, they're as invested in your work as you are. So they love it. They know everything about your story too, and they think it should be a book, right? So it is hard for them to have the perspective sometimes that you need a stranger sometimes.
So this is wonderful, and I hope that the many people are watching it. Such good advice. And now you're also a physician.
Yes,
So now,
I
like,
mean,
are you happy to be a physician, or do you say, what do I need this for? All kinds of people with COVID and you know, lung collapses and the tracheotomies. What do I need this for?
I'm an internal medicine physician. I'm a primary care doctor, so my practice is outpatient. And I gotta tell you, I mean, I've just I love practicing medicine. I love my colleagues. I love my patients.
What do you
There's a
mean?
lot.
What's that? You wake up in the morning and you take your bag and you go and see people?
Yeah, so during COVID, for a while, we were all virtual, but now 2 days a week, I'm in the office seeing patients.
So
And
they come to you.
yeah, yeah. And then I still do some virtual visits too, where everyone's on Zoom all the time. So
So once, so you're an internal specialist?
yeah, internal medicine. Yeah. So I'm a primary care doctor. So I'm the first person you see, basically. I'm the one that kind of takes care of everything.
That's incredible.
I love it. I really do. And I really think that well, I mean, I also think that there's a lot in common between being a doctor and being a writer. Um the most important thing is that they're both about people. I think that I think that in order to be a
That's
good
incredible.
Oh, it's true, but to be a good physician, you have to love people, right? Like you have to love them and you have to hold on to a sense of wonder about people because people are capable of so much incredible stuff, right? They make
Yeah,
horrible mistakes.
yeah, but
Go ahead.
Rajani, most
Yeah.
physicians,
Yes.
I don't know about Harvard graduates, but most of the physicians, when you come in, they see a kidney or an achalasia or a ruptured spleen or what have you. They don't see the
Well,
human being.
I mean, I don't I think that when doctors are under time pressure and other pressure, I think it is easy for things to devolve into that. But I think that most people, the vast majority of people who went into medicine, went into it in large part because they do love people. And there are so many different types of medical practices. So like you don't have to have, you don't really necessarily care if certain types of, doctors are all business and don't care about you as a human. But I really think, and I think that for the most part, this is what I see. The best doctors are the ones that see the whole person. And despite the fact that they're taking care of one piece of something, they see the whole person.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
I taught, I don't know whether you know this, but I taught medical students for about 30 years.
Did you really? Wow, wow,
But this show is about you, dear. So, and now we get to the, we're towards the end of the show, and
wow.
we're going to talk about the Beatles.
We're going to talk about the Beatles? Okay.
Do you like the Beatles?
I love the Beatles.
What's not to love?
Love them. Love them. Here Comes the Sun is my favorite song.
Really?
Yeah.
This is a favorite on the show.
Oh, I love that song. I love it so
You,
much.
but don't you love the whole album of Abbey Road?
Oh, yes, it's a genius album. And it's one of those albums that you're supposed to just listen from the beginning all the way to the end. It's a story in and of itself. Like you have to like of course you can listen to a song by itself, but like you listen to the whole album all the way through. It's just so incredible.
I'm getting goosebumps because like the second side of Abbey Road is like a shepherd's pie. It's like
It's
everything, all the songs they never finished and wanted to put in the song,
oh,
and they just made this beautiful medley.
oh, I love that medley. Yes, yes.
And I'm so happy. I'm so happy to meet you. I'm incredibly fortunate, honored, and humbled that you're on the show. And now I'm going to be frustrated because although we will meet again in our meetup next week, I hope,
Yes.
with all the other 20 writers I've been fortunate to e-meet or whatever the word is. I really want to see you.
Well, when are you coming? When is this all going to be over and we can all hang out together again? I'm really looking forward to
I was
that.
supposed to come to New York last April,
Mm.
meet Harold Underdown, who is my mentor.
Oh, he's lovely.
He's the best. I'm working with him for a whole year now.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm the luckiest thing. And you'll see him next week because he's coming to our meetup.
Awesome.
And travel with him to Ottawa, Canada, for
Oh,
an
wow.
STBWI meeting, where I was going to come back to Ottawa, which is where I grew up and left
Oh,
when I
my
was
goodness.
18. Yeah. But then the COVID hit us, and but I'll get back. And are you near Boston?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm outside of Boston. So yeah, New York is not far.
No, but I know Boston. But I have this thing. I want to go to Boston, and I have all kinds of places I want to go. But
Come on.
we can meet in New York. But anyway, getting back to the Beatles.
Yes.
You know that I usually ask guests to sing their favorite song,
Oh boy. Okay.
and I know that you're musical
Yes.
because of that marvelous story with the golden rings. But
Yes.
by the way, is this based on a legend, or you invented the legend too?
Oh, no, it is not based on. So the puzzle, right? The logic puzzle is an old one that many people who are in math know this puzzle. My uncle told it to us when we were like kids.
So
So I took,
you built this legend around
yes,
the puzzle.
yes, I remembered that logic puzzle. I never forgot it. I made it a little bit more complicated. And
Mhm.
then I said, I need to have a character who needs to solve this puzzle for an important reason. And so then I made up the rest of it.
So I'm gonna. Do you know about Ted Ed?
Yeah.
Ed, the animations. They love mathematical puzzles.
Oh,
I'm gonna connect you with them.
it sounds good.
You don't make any money, but millions of people see it.
That's fine.
And
That's incredible.
I'm guessing you make more money as a physician anyway, even with your wonderful literary career. Or am I mistaken?
Oh, you would be right.
So this was I'm just postponing the inevitable, which is to ask you to sing "Here Comes the Sun," and then we'll say goodbye until next week.
I will sing a little bit of it. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been clear. Here comes the sun, doo doo doo. Here comes the sun. I say it's all right. Doo 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 doo.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I just lost my pencil out of excitement. So Rajani LaRocca,
Yes,
this was incredible,
I had a wonderful time.
and I had a wonderfuler time. And can't wait to meet you, but I'll see you next week. And thank you for being on You've Got Mel.
Thank you for having me. I had such a great time. Yay!
Bye, dear. Don't
Bye.
forget to share this.
I don't you worry.